Hello and welcome to today's historic Best of 3 deck tech and gameplay video on an update to an older list, that being Mono Black Devotion. Mono Black Devotion basically wants to play a load of cards that have a good devotion to black, as you can see what that means here, so take a second to read. We want to play various permanents that get our devotion to black as high as we can get it early on, so we can use Grave Merchant of Asphodel to drain our opponent out for a buttload, and if not kill them immediately, get them low enough that any one of our creatures that have a good amount of devotion to black can get us over the last, few health they might have in any given game. Now, besides the high devotion cards themselves and the Grave Merchant of Asphodel, there are a couple of other devotion payoffs. A new one being Grim Servant, which is effectively a devotion to black tutor card that came in Modern Horizons 3. We also have old school Nykthos Shrine to Nyx as another way to sort of pay off for having a large devotion to, in this case, black, where we can ramp out and again just have really explosive turns with all of the mana this happens to produce. Another Modern Horizons card that I've had a lot of fun with is the Fell the Profane, Fellmire Bolt Land combo thing, where you want to run cards like this, and even in the sideboard, the Bogart Trawler as graveyard hate. You run these cards because since in the main deck you have to sort of have a good density of devotion in your cards, you can't afford to run too many non-devotion producing cards. We do run a couple, like Thoughtseize. You can consider Murderous Rider in a way, and the new Consuming Corruption, but we try to keep these to a relative minimum so that we can always have, a good amount of devotion on any given board, which again, hopefully we can translate into a big old scary Grey Merchant here to eventually drain our opponent out. The land base, besides the Fell the Profanes and Nykthos, are a buttload of snow-covered swamps, you'll see why in a moment, and just some basic little utility lands, Lock the Wind for card draw, Hive for creature land, that's also some graveyard hate, and a single copy of Aghanim's Awakening to potentially rebuild after board wipes or a lot of interaction with our opponent, and again, if we needed to, can just be land. And that's all for the basics of the list. We'll go on to the sideboard now. Sideboard, pretty self-explanatory silver bullet cards. Feed the Swarm is usually a way to have enchantment hate, though it can be creature hate if you need it. Tainted Remedy for opposing life gain decks, which are very numerous and plenty in the format. 2 copies of Blood in the Snow, and this is the reason why we run all of our snow-covered swamps. Blood in the Snow allows us to both sweep a board, but not entirely wreck our game plan and still retain, at least in theory, if we have enough snow permanents, or enough snow lands in this case, to return a creature from, the graveyard to the battlefield with Blood on the Snow. Since having a good devotion at any given point in time is so important, it kind of hurts to just sweep our own board and go back to, in theory, nothing. Blood on the Snow is a way to mitigate that somewhat by usually recurring some sort of creature, even if it may not be like a Phyrexian Obliterator. Sometimes just getting a Knight of the Ebon Legion or a Timurit back is enough to sort of reset after a necessary board wipe, and to reset to build again right back up all the way to our Grave Merchant by having a whole lot of devotion, which we've already talked about. Anywho, like we talked about earlier, Bogart Trawlers, these are just if you need graveyard hate in the land base, that's why it's there. Necromantia against either combo decks, or if you're really concerned about an opponent having one particular card you need to get rid of that isn't necessarily a combo win. Something like your Baldur's Gates or Maze's End that aren't necessarily combo cards, but will win a game if left unanswered, or just any particular card you need to get rid of. 2 copies of Hi Sweetheart. 2 copies of Witch's Vengeance for the various tribal decks that are floating around the format, and a single copy of Meathook Massacre, as again, in this case, a more variable board sweeper, since this deck needs a whole lot of help against aggressive decks, because not only is the deck a little bit slow and a little more like grindy value, so it can get ran down early, but with all of our, say, our Bolt lands, our, let's see, our Grim Servants, Phyrexian Arenas, Thoughtseizes, we end up doing a very cliche mono black thing where our own life is used as a resource to gain other resources. And if you do that whole self-damage thing a little bit too much against an aggressive deck, you can just sometimes die, which is why there are so many cards in the sideboard dedicated to just sweeping opposing boards. Because if you don't, or you don't draw them, you will just get ran down. But anywho, that's the basics of the list. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions like, I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally nice and or somewhat constructive comments, I'll do what I can to respond to what I see. With all that out of the way, we'll now go on to game number 1. And game number 1 with our little mono black devotion list. And this is a perfectly fine hand. 3 lands, 4 spells, things to do. Granted, not a thing to do on turn 1, but this hand is good enough that we're just gonna, take the win. And that Boros Energy list that's floating around, pretty popular, and honestly, it's one of the decks that, like I talked about in the deck tech earlier, was that like how this deck can really struggle against aggressive decks. This is like the aggressive deck that's in the format right now. But since we drew a 1-drop, we'll go ahead and play the Gutter Bones. So all we're going to try and do, we're not going to be, for the most part, we're just going to try and play the controlling role. We're just going to sit behind our defenses and build up a board. Hopefully go over the top with a Gray Merchant. Maybe if we can find a Phyrexian Obliterator, just sit there and make it a little less enticing for our opponent to, like, bonk us in the head. Fortunately, though, our opponent is doing well. Hi, sweetheart. Do we see the Fibblethip Apodar and you're, like, losing your mind? Okay. Well, in the meantime, play a Timurit. It's okay, cat. It's not coming to get you. Just a little one-eyed, what's the card? Homunculus. That's the creature type this card is for. Anywho. No. No. Sorry. Nope. Don't pull at the screen. Thank you. I love you. Okay, so she was actually pawing at my little pet thing, so that's good to know, I guess. I think we're going to play the Murderous Rider as the Rider. There's a part of me that wants to try and cast Swift End and remove something that way, but I think that's like a little too slow. And we really cannot afford to like be too slow right now. Our opponent's doing pretty good. Although maybe having a lifelinking body might like make them second guess a little bit when to attack. Correction, it does not. To be fair though, they're having a fantastic draw. Their board's going to be very big and scary. It's quickly getting out of range of my ability to like answer it properly. It's not the most interesting, but I believe the correct play is, again, just play a Murderous Rider. Play a body that, assuming it lives and doesn't get removed immediately. But it's gonna get removed with the energy removal card. Discharge. Yep, and that's basically the game. I mean, well done from our opponent. Can't get too upset. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draws a land. Okay, we are technically alive for another turn. If they had a land, they could have played it, activated the Den of the Bugbear, and attacked that way. But it really doesn't matter, right? I could play 2 creatures. 2 biggest blockers, another 5. Yep, that's it. To be fair, this is like probably one of the more popular lists you'll see floating around. I personally don't mind it as an aggressive player. For the most part, I'm just happy that like aggressive decks are sort of having a chance here. Not for nothing. There's a lot of cats, so we can bring in some Witches' Vengeances, Blood on the Snow, and Meat Hook Massacres. Again, all of which are just trying to do everything we can to answer their board. Thought Seizes are too slow and don't really do that much, so they're coming out. Honestly, probably a single arena can go out. We want to reduce, as much as this deck can, our like tendency to self-damage ourselves, because that's just going to make our opponent's job significantly easier. We will go ahead and play first, which is a fantastic little benefit. We'd love to find a 2-drop, but even if we don't, feeling okay. Have not sadly drawn any of our sideboarded pieces in our opening hand, so I mean we gotta kind of dig for those or just get very lucky and draw them. This deck might, our opponent's deck, the Boros Energy Aggro or whatever, might like absolutely floor this particular list, but you can see I did get up to Diamond with this list. The list is good. It's just, there are also other good lists that'll do pretty well. Against, and we might see this in the next game. We might not, I don't know. But for the most part, if you were going against a remotely slower deck that isn't like really, really aggressive, like very early on, you have a much better chance of winning, since your sort of grindy mid-game, mid-rangey thing is better than your opponent's on average. Anywho, don't have anything to do, so I guess we'll play the Mire tapped. Not gonna attack. Right now, just sitting and like being on the defensive, doing everything we can, which is not that much, granted, to slow down our opponent is all we can hope to do. Yeah, there's the Raptor. Yeah. The Guide of Souls gets more energy. My god. I mean, credit given, it's a very good list. That's fantastic if we can actually get there. So, we're just going to sit with that land and pass. We now actually retain the ability to pump the Knight of the Ebon Legion and block in response, which is very nice. Although he is going to attack and pay the 3 energy to make something an angel, which is going to be very uncool. Or, well, he can. We don't know that he's going to do that. Let's be fair. See what our opponent's doing. They're in the tank. Or they're just not here. Which would be very unfortunate, because I would very much like to keep this particular... There we go. Yep. For the most part, I've seen in this list... I forgot that had a voice line. It's almost like I don't normally play with sound. Oh my god. Yeah, and it's gonna get 2 count. My god. Yeah, we're gonna... If we don't draw exactly a sweeper, we're gonna be in for a rough time. In this case, I guess we just block whatever they don't buff up. Because I'm assuming they're gonna spread that out over 2 creatures. Yep. I mean, it's not great, but being able to at least block the Raptor is a nice touch. They could, in response, do the get discharge thing, but anything removed is a thing removed. It sounds like the most obvious statement in the world. But for the most part, we take what we can get. Does he have it? Right? Let's... Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. My god. I mean, luckily I have my own little... Oh, okay, that helps. I mean, it kind of helps, but it doesn't really. In the meantime, play the Obliterator. hope that we live, because he's going to, at minimum, probably going to give, like, 2 more different things. Make them flying angels. Oh, man. Oh, my God. It's brutal. That's the trick, is that you attack with other things. I have to be honest. I'll take whatever blocker you give me. Yeah. Again, probably spreads it out over maybe the Pride and a Johnny, if I had to take a wild guess. Yep. I mean, we'll take it. He's gonna flip it. Oh, then he does just flip the Ajani down tick and does the damage thing to my face. I mean, credit given. I do enjoy the fact that an aggro deck is really seeing a lot of like play here. So, but well played from our opponent. They did a very very good aggro things. We didn't find any of our sweepers. If we had, that would have been a very different game. But that's pretty much that is an eternal format. In our post-board games, we didn't find our sideboard cards, so we died. Pretty fair. And this is a popular deck. It will happen a lot. It's happened a lot during testing, and if you particularly like this deck and want to run it, you will have to deal with Boros Energy Aggro. But anywho, on to game number 2. And game number 2. We'll go ahead and play first. And I mean, I have things to do, and I have some draws. I'll keep this, but I don't like it. It has to be said. Maybe we'll get some use out of the Consuming Corruption. Was it Mono Green Devotion? Yep. This is a list that we can kind of do okay against. It's very it's very draw dependent, because you do have to answer a lot of their big scary creatures. But if you can do that, it's actually not that bad. I guess we'll do a snow covered swamp. Maybe they play a Land of War elf or something, and we can actually use the Consuming Corruption. But for the most part, we're doing okay. Okay, another Sprawl, which is less than ideal. Oh, Delighted Halfling. Annoyingly, I can't kill that. But sure, I guess. Anywho, we will Fell the Profane as the Fell Mire. Go ahead and I guess play Ayara. Start building up the Devotion here. Because they... Okay, well they also have their own Nick though, so that's fair. Yep, there's a Kiora. Casting big things. Untaps it. There's the Cavalier of Thorns, which isn't great, but I can just get rid of it. It's not great. We don't love it, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's too dangerous to leave that thing just around, so we will go ahead and swift in the Cavalier of Thorns. Sweet cat, I don't want to play right now. The dad is busy. Anywho. Now he is just going to play another one next turn, which is not great. It does have to be said. Although, I can actually somewhat freely attack into... Yes, cat, mess up the chair. I can freely attack into Kiora. I don't think they're just going to give up the Halfling. I guess next turn we can play an Obliterator. They seem to be running a little more of the actual mono green version and less of at least so far, the versions that run a Karn sideboard for a load of just, generically good artifact stuff. I haven't seen a single Karn there, so they appear to be okay. We can deal. Yeah, the Karn boards are a little more difficult because access to colorless cards from Karn gives a green deck. Oh my god. Gives green decks an access to things they shouldn't normally have. Anywho, Phyrexian Obliterator. Now, we're doing okay. We don't love it. They might have some sort of, like, fight spell, but those are rare in these lists. Oh, I lied. He does have a Karn. Cool. Never mind. It's probably game over then, because he's probably going to get like a Cityscape Leveler or something, and if he removes the Obliterator, basically the game's gone. You can't really do that much against it. Yes, yes. Or like Portal to Phyrexia or something. Cool. It's over. I'm not going to sit here and keep going with it. I've faced both the decks that you will see a lot. And honestly, like, even this has been really common. Anywho, I'm trying to refrain from being too snarky and upset. So we will bring in some Blood on the Snows. Consuming Corruption is going to hit so little. It's basically not really worth that much. I could feed the Swarm for some big stuff, but I kind of don't care. Yeah, we'll just do that. Again, this is one of those, we're just going to have to see if they have a nuts draw again. I have said this before, I believe, in other videos. Okay, that's fine. 3 lands, some things to do, an Obliterator, that's fine. It's nice when a deck does get to Diamond, because that means it's like, you know, the above 50% win rate, and the deck does like good and all that, which is great. All of that's fantastic. But as a result, because a certain style of deck is very common, like if a deck does have, you know, an above 50% win rate, it's gonna, you know, assuming a player only plays that, like this, like a mono green devotion, they will eventually get to Diamond, and all of the other like really good list always end up occupying the Diamond and Mythic like ladders. And I don't question that they're good. They're kind of boring, if that makes sense. And I guess it's just where I differ as like a player. I like to try and tinker with stuff, and the results of the list are secondary to the idea of having fun. Anywho, we will fell the Profane and play the Fellmire, paying 3 life to tap it in and Thoughtseize our opponent. All of that to being said, the Knight of the Ebon... Hang on. Karn... Yeah, Karn's the problem. All that being said at all is that the Knight of the Ebon Legion, if you will notice, if I can click the thing... Come on. It only cares that one player lost 4 or more life. It doesn't care about which player happened to lose the 4 life. So there are moments like that where you can grow a Knight of the Ebon Legion on turn 2 by damaging yourself, which is a lovely little piece. Hang on, don't click that. A lovely little piece of like useful advice if you ever decide to play this list. If they block, again, we'll take the trade. It's fine. They're gonna get the enchanted thing, make your land make a lot of mana, all that stuff. That's fine. But that isn't. Is that card? Oh yeah, it does. Does return to the battlefield? Yeah, okay. That does add to the devotion. Does he have? If he doesn't have, okay, he definitely has enough for the Storm of the Festival now. It's fine. I mean, that works. It resolves. It's fine. We're gonna try and attack the Kiora, because honestly, most of this damage is not gonna super stick. And I want to get rid of their card draw potential, since they are basically at the point of, like, purely top decking. It's a perfectly normal thing. It's fine. Oh boy! The same thing again. Sign me up. Cool. We've hit that moment again where my brain just sort of, like, shuts off and doesn't have a good time. We'll let our opponent pop off. But I'm like weirdly, I'm weirdly happy that the end of the month season is almost over, so I'm gonna be less around this. Again, it's very good. It's a very good deck, very strong deck, much like the oh my god, much like the Boros Energy Aggro thing before. I just it's it's just not fun, and that's fine. I understand, you know. Everybody likes Magic for different reasons. I don't like it when, you know, things become a little too homogenized. I'm gonna kind of cheat here, and I'm gonna do a game 3, and it won't be against a list you've already seen. Because, let's be honest, I've lost this, and not to be a whiny little baby, but I have emotionally checked out. So, we'll go on now to game number 3. And the rare game number 3 with our Mono Black Devotion. Again, we'll play first, and this is... No, this one's a little too sketchy. That's better. I can work with that. It's not a whole lot to it, which isn't great, but it's good enough that we'll just take the win. Alright, opponent. Are we keeping or mulliganing? Any second now. Just waiting. Any moment now. Kind of running out of some time. Okay. Well, if our opponent doesn't come back, you'll... Oh, okay. There we go. There we go. We will go ahead and keep it. Throw away one of the Fell the Profanes. We don't need them both. And go ahead and play Gutter Bones on turn 1. Now, in the off chance that, and I mentioned this loosely beforehand, I try not to show the same matchup more than once in a video. All that to be said, if our... Well, okay, they're playing Field of Ruin. Okay, never mind. I was going to say, if this is another Boros Energy list, then this video is going to go bye-bye. But it's not, so, okay. I don't know what it is. Some sort of, like, maybe Rakdos-y mid-range kind of just generic goodness kind of thing. Is it like Ponza, maybe? Anywho, play a Phyrexian Obliterator. Hopefully, if they're like a weird mono red list, they're just gonna like be sad and cry when they see a Phyrexian Obliterator. All I have are basic swamp or snow-covered swamps, so it doesn't matter what I hit. Okay, so they are some sort of like Rakdos-y, probably mid-rangey thing. Again, another one of those decks that's not terribly exciting, but it's like, you know, it's good. But it's technically different, and that's enough for me. Of course, Liliana down ticks to get rid of the Obliterator.
I don't appreciate it when people touch my things.
Yes, yes.
I've always hated.
I guess we'll just play the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This is one of those we don't like playing it just, you know, neat with nothing else on the board, but in moments like this, you kind of have to. Okay. I mean, yeah, you got rid of the removal spell. You can uptick and make me get rid of my land. That is an option. See what our opponent gets rid of, since it is telling. Got another Prismatic Vista. Okay, Croxa. I mean, cool. Well, we know the Thoughtseize are going to come out, since we don't want to give our opposing Croxa any extra fuel that we don't have to. I guess we'll go ahead and fell the Profane and get rid of the Liliana. What is our opponent holding up in response?
I know when I'm not wanted.
Oh well, we'll find out pretty soon. Attack with the Grey Merchant. they have enough. They do have enough to escape it next turn, which is unfortunate. Which is, I mean, if I were a betting man, I'm gonna assume that's what they're gonna do this turn, if nothing else. That's fine. We don't love that, but we're kind of in an okay spot. Might as well use the Thassas while we can. Get some information. Another Croak's, Fatal Push. Push can't get rid of that anyway, so we'll get rid of Crucius. Again, our opponent's list is a fine deck. It's a good deck with good results. If not the most exciting thing in the world. I have to be honest, I probably should have blocked there, but we've sort of again hit that point where my brain's checked out of this whole... Yep, it's fine. We'll go on to the sideboard games. Thought Seizes are bad. We don't want to give them anything in their yard for free. Honestly, the Fell the Profanes are not going to be that useful. We'll cut down, like, some of them, bring in some Trawlers for some graveyard hate, which we're going to need. I guess bring in some Blood on the Snows to deal with their board and maybe get our own little Shieldred. I am aware that I could be running Shieldred. It does have, you know, a couple Devotion, and it's a good card. But again, as I really, really harped on here, I don't question that it's good. I question that it's boring. Anywho, maybe like one Feed the Swarm for the occasional thing that might slip through. I swear this deck does better than this, and it did, you know, it did get me to, you know, platinum or whatever, or diamond, whatever. It's diamond. But once you get into diamond, this deck does struggle. We'll go ahead and play first. It's a perfectly fine hand. 3 lands, 4 spells. Play a Swamp on 1, so we can play a Castle Locked on turn 2. Probably going to get Thought Seized or Inquisitioned. A entirely foreseeable thing that black decks do. Just going to play lands and pass, and going to slowly get my resources chipped away at until I'm sort of top decking. Again, I'm a little salty about it, but I mean this with sincerity. What they're doing is good. Nothing is they're not making bad decisions. They're not playing bad decks. Really nothing? I mean, maybe like a push or something, because they've shown themselves to have that. That's a choice. I guess we'll play an Obliterator. Probably doesn't live, if we're going to be honest. Maybe another Liliana and a downtick. The fuck is that? The end. Spell costs 2 less to cast if your life total is 5 or less. Exile target creature or planeswalker, search its controller's graveyard hand library for a number of cards. Same one. Permit. Okay, that's really good in this exact circumstance. I question its usefulness in others, if that makes sense. We will go ahead and feed the Swarm the Trespasser so we don't die. This 1000% sucks, but this is one of those things you have to do to not die. We'll play the Knight of the Ebon Legion, which actually... No, it's not quite. It's a 3, right. Yeah, that's such... I mean, yeah, that's a good, I'm assuming, sideboard card. But that's so narrow. I question its usefulness. Another Shieldred, that one makes me tricky. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. Multi cards, creature, cool. We will play the Arena to draw a card. Credit given. Let me, as I try to pull back my snarkiness. Yeah, that's fantastic against a mono black devotion list, but I would be very surprised if it's good against many other things. That's sideboard out of 10. Anywho, what I was going to say is that credit given to our opponent, they are actually playing some, like, kind of unique cards here, and they, like, I don't want to give... I don't want to... What's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to belittle that, because, like, this Shielder sees 0 play. Pyromancer doesn't really see play. Maybe if you run into that, like, Gruul Shaman's list, you'll see it, but, like, other than that, it doesn't normally do it. I guess we can play the Trawler. It sucks to pay 3 life like this, but we'd rather Blood on the Snow, destroying all creatures, and we'll get something big and scary. Again, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. Probably going to get pushed. Or Edict. That's fine. But that does kind of show why I'm running Blood on the Snow when there are technically cheaper options for sweepers. I think that actually kills me. And that's fine. Is that, you know, in that moment, we did sweep a board and actually come out with a creature left, which is, like, not insignificant. We will go ahead and Fell the Profane to get rid of that card immediately. It's not fantastic, and now this Grim Servant's basically a dead card until we find... Can I fail to find? Reveal it, put it... I can't. I cannot fail to find. That is good to know. Doesn't technically matter that I do this, but this is the, like... It doesn't practically matter that I do that, but it's the technical correct thing to do. If our opponent didn't have perfect information, that would be the right thing to do. Crucius. It's a land. Okay, Consuming Corruption. I can do that. Corruption. Get rid of that bad boy. We're weirdly back in it, kind of. Gonna look for probably... what do we have in here? We have Legion. I actually think I'm going to go for old Ayara. I really want to just do anything and everything to, like, slowly get our life total back up. It might be all for naught, but Consuming Corruption is and like I have the deck, it's a fantastic 2-of, because it's a little too situational to be useful for anything more than that amount of copies. Okay, it's night, which weirdly could kind of matter here. Okay, we're alive. Gonna go ahead and Ayara first. Now, sadly, the Castle Lockdwain is basically a dead card. We'll play the Ayara first to get the first bit of drain, then a Knight of the Ebon Legion to get the second one, and just slowly, weirdly, try and claw our way back into this game. We have 1000% attack with the Grim Servant. He can double block with his 2 elemental tokens, but we're just happy to get things off the board. Yeah, it sucks to lose 1 devotion, but devotion's meaningless if you're dead. Perfectly fine. Get rid of his things. He has 1 card in hand. He could push it. That does suck. But again, we're alive. Although I'm a little scared that losing that Ayara, unless we draw another one, is gonna, like... Okay. That's fine. I wasn't gonna use that anyway. Yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. Losing the Ayara, if we don't draw another one, is gonna be a little scary, because that was gonna be my tool to, like, slowly chip and, like, gain a little bit of life here and there. So we just have to really hope to, like, hit something kind of good. Okay, the Trawler is not exciting, but it's a thing to get rid of a full graveyard. And if they draw Croxas, they could, in theory, have, like, really messed my S up with it. Go ahead and swing with a really big and buff Knight of the Ebon Legion. We might actually pull this out, which is not what I expected at all. But this is actually, like, kind of a good showing of the list. Like, you can weirdly... That's fantastic. You can, like, actually weirdly pull out weird wins sometimes. Like, the deck is... Again, I like our sideboarding strategy, so we're going to keep it. I've said this several times throughout the video, and I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but it did get us to Diamond. It has to be said. The deck is not bad. It wasn't bad in the old list, and it's gotten better with the new Modern Horizons cards. The deck is better. Now, like you've seen in the first 2 games, that doesn't mean you aren't still going to run into some decks that are better than you. But there are, decks like this where you stand a real chance. Anywho, we'll do a Hive and a Knight of the Ebon Legion. Hopefully draw some lands, because we draw some lands, and this hand is really cooking. That dumpsters most of my hand, but that's fine. There's no one thing well, besides the arena. Getting rid of the arena might actually really, might kind of mess me up a little bit. That is the correct thing to do. It's one of those... We did draw the land, though, so we're feeling better. But getting rid of my arena just gives me less cards in hand and less options. And like they saw last game, getting an arena down for any amount of turns can very quickly, a game can be lost if left unanswered, if that makes sense. Anywho, we will play the Nykthos, and we will immediately get rid of Trespasser. I don't want to deal with it. I'm actually going to get rid of Ayara here. The new Ayara is not the most useful right now, and I'd rather work towards a Blood on the Snow where I could, in theory, if I have enough snow mana, get the Ayara back anyway. See some Pyromancer, see what they discard. Crucius and the Thoughtseize. Okay. Doing pretty good. We will play a Swamp, do a Murderous Rider. I'd rather keep the Feed the Swarm for something a little more consequential. I think I'm going to not attack. I think I can make more use out of the Devotion that I have on my board right now. And in moments like this is fantastic. This is a bad way to use this card. Cool, you got rid of some 1-drops that aren't that impactful to my strategy. To their credit, when, the last, in our game 1, where, I think it was game 1, where they got rid of all of my Phyrexian Obliterators, I think it was, or all my Garys or something. When you get rid of a consequential card, this is fantastic. But in moments like that, he got rid of fucking Knight of the Ebon Legion. It's fine. These are not required for my game plan at all. Anywho, I can turn on Hive of the Eye Tyrant, actually. We don't like paying 3 for this, but I think we're going to do it. Turn on the Hive. Only attack with the Hive. See if we can get rid of some, problematic stuff that might come back. Right now, that being creatures. Oh, 1000%. Take the trade. I don't care. Just happy to get things off of his board. He could use a Pyromancer. And I weirdly kind of don't... I don't love the One Ring. But let's be honest about that. But I kind of don't care that much. No point in attacking, because I can't deal damage due to the protection effect. So just sit and wait for a turn. Does he immediately start putting burden counters on it? This is probably more so in service of finding other One Rings, so you can weirdly pitch one to another. I maintain that this card could be balanced for Historic if you just limit one copy to a deck. And that still then keeps with the theme and the flavor.
Happy to help.
But maybe that's just me. What do I know? Probably down ticks? Or do you uptick? That's fair. Gutter Bones is fine. That could in theory come back.
Must be made.
I don't love that Liliana's alive. I have to be honest. Do I care though? Do I have to return a creature card with mana value or creature or planeswalker? Okay, so regardless of which mode I choose, I can get whatever I want of the two back. It's 4 mana. I could get that Ayara back. Well, let's just see first if he just gives up the Liliana. I mean, cool. Does that matter? Do I fire off... Yeah, target creature and enchantment. Weirdly, I'm going to do the Blood on the Snow because I'm probably not going to have access to it for much longer anyway. I don't love doing this, but I can get the Ayara back and start slowly spinning back up with my devotion. It might just die immediately. And then another reason why this is a bad fucking card. I only have one copy of it. That's so overcosted. Like, yeah, it can in theory be less expensive, but like... What's up, Bo? Did you find a bug? Ah, we're going bug hunting. Guess we can do a Grim Servant. And, guess we'll just... We already have a Nykthos. No, we'll just get a Gutter Bones. That's fine. Do I just feed the Swarm to get rid of that, or do we, like... I think I'm going to play the Gutter Bones. I mean, if we're lucky, he might... Well, there's no way they don't have more than one copy of the One Ring. Just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Could play the Kroxa. Yeah, I lose the Feed the Swarm, but, like... It's kind of okay. We don't love this. I guess we'll block the token, since I have a turn to do that. We might draw something useful. We might not, though. That would fall under the not category. Is it land or... Yeah. That sucks a lot. Yeah, I have no option. Okay. That so stinks. Oh, we were... Okay, we were really dead then. That makes me feel a little bit better that it probably didn't super matter. I think I can technically live for another turn. But, hey, don't be a butt. What? Yeah, there goes my Gutter Bones. Block the 6, because it's the only way we live. Although, a lot kill. He could have actually killed us if he would have turned on the Den and attacked also. But I've had those moments. I get it. Hey, you. I don't want to play. It's so unfortunate. That would have been useful earlier. At least when it comes into play, I drain too. But well played from our opponent. And yeah, that is basically been, you know, Mono Black Devotion. The deck is good. Again, you'll get wins, you will climb, and there are just certain decks that are just on average better than this, and you're gonna like run into them a lot once you know, fall into a similar bracket like Diamond is, where you're gonna face those decks a lot. Deck's a lot of fun. Deck's good. If you like Devotion decks, and I mean, and you've already played, you know, if you like another Devotion deck that isn't Devotion to Green, Devotion Black is the only other option that makes any goddamn sense. The only one that's even remotely playable. Granted, Mono Green is the king of Devotion decks. It's like not even close. But this deck is still fun and still good. So if you're looking to play it, go ahead and try it out. You'll have some fun. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions, like I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally nice and or constructive comments, I try not to deal with the negative stuff. Sorry. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. And remember, just, you know, be nice to one another. Even if people are playing boring decks, they're human beings too, and that doesn't make them bad people. Be nice, don't be a jerk. Bye-bye.